Okay, so we're going to do a little shucking lesson here. I've got my stainless steel mesh glove, quite the fashion statement. That's my gloves. This is not only just a fashion statement, that's the real deal. Okay? And it's really not because you're going to put a knife through your hand. It's because these oysters are very sharp on the edges. So now you can really hold that. Okay? And there's 3 ways to open an oyster that we're going to talk about. There's the hinge. There's the bill. And there's what we call the side. The side where the 2 shells meet. Okay, so I'm going to show you 3 ways of opening up an oyster. Now, again, the trick is not to cut yourself and to be safe. So, you can have a towel if you want. If you ever look on the internet for shucking oysters, they're all going to show you, because I looked, I was trying to send my buddy Daryl a lesson on how to shuck oysters using something other than the hinge method, and there wasn't any information. So with the hinge, there's all kinds of different knives. Here's a knife with the upturned bill, and that's a hinge opening knife. So it's going to go in here, and what they show is, let me see if I can get what you're going to do is you're going to put the towel down on it like this, and put the knife right inside in the hinge, and get a nice grasp on it and pop it. Once it's popped, the trick of opening up an oyster is, as you're looking at the oyster, there's a couple jingle shells on it. As you're looking at the oyster, what you're always after is cutting the adductor muscle, which holds the 2 shells together, and it's always going to be right here. So what you're looking at is, when you're here and the muscle's going to be here, you're looking to get the knife to cut that muscle. And once you cut the muscle, that's amazing. This is the first. So there's the muscle, and that's what you're cutting free. I didn't do such a neat job because I left some here. Okay, and then you can take a knife and clear that. And you've got a nice. I'm not very good at filming this. There's your nice oyster, and so the hinge method. In the hinge, I don't use the hinge. I don't like the hinge method. And if I were doing it, I wouldn't use a towel either. I'd put it in there. Pop. I don't like the hinge method. Pop, cut, clear, slurp. The reason why I don't like the hinge method is a lot of cultured oysters have a very fragile hinge, and sometimes they just blow apart and you get shell all over the place. Plus, you got to get in there and But most people use the hinge method, and it's fine. Some oysters are so tough that you can't do anything but pop the hinge. Wellfleet oysters, I use the hinge method for Wellfleets because they literally make a pop noise when you open them. A very safe way of opening an oyster is you take the oyster. This is the bill method. And I saw this little old lady, about 88-year-old lady, open 200 or 300 oysters alone at a party using this method. And you can use a vice grip. You can use, this is actually my base fretting tool, but they have those like wire dikes. A regular kind of plier. We could also try a nice sharp scissor, because what you're after is, I'm going to try the scissor first. You're going to cut the bill off. Just cut the bill. Cut a chunk of the bill off. And once you do that, you've got a hole. And you can take any knife. I would use a clam knife. That's a clam knife. And it goes right in the bill. Cut that muscle and pop, up it is. There it is. And clear the meat. Slurp. So let me do that again. You got an oyster. Let's try it with a vice grip. Everyone's got a vice grip. You take a vice grip, just grip the bill and break it off. You just break it off, and you got a little opening there. You could actually clean it a little bit with its own juice if you want. Take your if you don't even have a clam knife, this is like a paring knife, very sharp, but I mean, you just go right in there and cut the muscle. Once you cut the muscle, I mean, that's it. Your top shell comes off. There's your oyster. You can use your paring knife again to clear the meat. And there's your beautiful oyster. You could always get some of that shell chip off by just rinsing it a little bit. Nice fresh oysters you want, because they have lots of the liquid. And, oh, they're so good. I use the side method. And the side method, I got a nice little French knife there. There's a sharp tip. Some of them have a little gauntlet on them. Put your thumb there so you don't ram your thumb into the shell when you're using it. A little sharp French knife. Or here's what they call a Boston knife. Or I got this in the Chesapeake. I don't know. So kind of the Boston design. I like that knife a lot. I use that. Whenever I'm using a knife, I don't hold it by the handle. I really choke up on it, hold it by the blade, and put my thumb like that, just a little bit of tip of the knife. Not like that, like that. And with the hinge method, with the side method, let's see if I can show you here. You're gonna put where the two shells meet. Let me get one with a nice clear two shells. Where the top shell meets the bottom shell. You see it right in here. So I'm holding it hinge up like that. I choke up. I put it down on the oyster like that and just give it a little whittle. Once it's there, it's yours. Go across, open, done. Once you learn that technique, boy, I mean, watch this. I'm going to show you. First, I'm going to eat this. Once you get into the hinge method, of course, I knew this one was going to be tough. Done. You get into that, and you can open up 2 oysters for everybody's 1 oyster that's doing the hinge method. The side method. So it takes practice. I'm going to show you. Hold on. You're going to put it down. Put it down. on the top of the shell where the two shells meet. Now you're not forcing this because you don't want to send that knife through your hand. You just put it on there and give it a little, I'm gonna back and forth like this, like I'm using an awl. And then remember that muscle is over there. So you're taking the knife, kind of bend it up so that you're riding on the top of the shell. You know, like this. I'm going up like that. I'm bending it up so that I'm not cutting the oyster in half when I go across to cut the muscle. And there she is. Clear the bottom of the adductor muscle. Now you're doing the opposite. You're taking the knife and running it along the bottom of the shell to cut that muscle. Because, you know, you want your presentation to be nice. You want, I don't know if I can show you, but I want to show you this way. You want the oyster to look nice. You know, not all hacked up. You don't want it all like a scrambled egg. You want it to look like an oyster. And then you want to eat it. And notice I'm not putting anything on it. I could put lemon on it. I would never put horseradish and ketchup. It's not a clam. Clams are great with cocktail sauce, but it's not right for an oyster. You can, a little drop of lemon. Some mignonette is nice. But, you know, straight up, if it's fresh, it needs nothing. Especially, it's January 26th today. And oysters, you couldn't get a better time to eat an oyster. So here we go, and that's enough of a video. I don't want to bore you guys, okay? Happy oyster eating.